The idea of balance, while I think it's admirable and important, I believe it's a complete myth. And it's also
What's up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from the Dad Central Show and Dad Central, and looking bountiful in blue.
Drew Solon of Dad Central and the Dad Central Show.
Excellent. As always, I'd like to say the Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is best of the man. And when men care for themselves and others, there's positive impact. And on today's conversation, we're doing some different things, as we always say. We're going to be talking about how to achieve work-life balance as a dad on the Dad Central Show. And in this episode, you're going to learn about the myth you're believing about balance, 3 keys meeting the demands, and the number one thing, most important practice needed when it comes to balance.
Hey dads, are you feeling overwhelmed by the demands of fatherhood? I get it. My name is Drew Solon. I'm the director for Dad Central Ontario, but I'm also a dad to 5 kids in a blended family situation. Balancing work, family, and everything in between can be a real struggle. You want to be the best dad you can be, but sometimes it feels like you're just barely holding it together. That's why I'm inviting you to the Fatherhood Summit. It's happening September 26th to 28th, and we've brought together some of the world's top experts to give you the tools and insights you need to succeed. This summit could change everything for you and for your family. Don't miss out. Your family's counting on you. Look forward to seeing you there.
Drew, other than that, what's up?
Well, this is very relevant and timely for me because I feel the demands pulling at me from all directions right now. Lots happening. We've got the kids in summer camps and all over the place. We've got a house that's closing July 31st. Then I've got some renovations that are part of the new home, but then we also have a 3-week overlap. So then my this house we have to pack up and get it all ready to convert to the new owners. A 3-week overlap, and then we've got some vacation planned. We've got finances. We've got schools coming up, school changes. Anyways, I could go on and on. It feels challenging balancing all of that, still taking care of my health, still providing for the kids, still being a good partner. I'm not sure if any dad listening can relate, but it's hard. How
It's
about for
certainly
you?
it's not easy, because if it was easy, we wouldn't be talking about it. So at the bottom line, it's not easy. And one other thing, I didn't know you're a reno dad.
Hey, real estate is something that I really get excited about. I enjoy
Oh,
real estate. I had a
oh.
plan, and I'm hoping my plan will still come to fruition. And by the time I hit 50, my goal is to actually have a project every year. It could be a new property that I'm renovating and then converting to a rental, or maybe it's some other form of project. But I'd love to have at least a project a year starting when I turn 50.
We can chat offline about that. I have a number of suggestions and also people who are in
Yes.
that world in
All right.
regards to that, not only here in the Greater Toronto, Ontario, but also overseas. But that's another conversation itself. Yeah, in regards to balance, is one of the top things I hear in regards to the heart work I do with fathers. They always feel like they're here, they're here, they're there, they're there. They're just like, and sometimes they're almost like mindless going through their life. And because they don't have any balance or would like to have better balance. So that's what I hear. So you can kick it off, man.
Well, I mean, it is hard, as I was saying, but I I'm a structure person. Like I like routine. I like having a consistent schedule. And the challenge I have is that I am the biggest barrier to actually following through on my consistent schedule. Again, if anyone's listening, maybe you can relate. I want to get up at a certain time. I want to hit these certain things throughout the day, and I want to have my task lists that are done by the end of the day. And there's always something that, with a family that comes up that derails that plan. And so the idea of balance, while I think it's admirable and important, I believe it's a complete myth And it's also a losing mentality if your goal is, I have to be able to balance everything. The reality is that life, from my perspective, is always going to be out of balance. And so your game is to try and put, all these spinning plates and keep them held balance. Like, eventually, a plate or two or all of them are going to fall. And then does that mean you failed? I say no, because the challenge is, how do I integrate all the different demands of my life in the season that I am faced with? Sometimes things are going to come up and they're going to happen, and you need to have the adaptability to adjust as necessary. And you also have to have the mindset that it's okay if I didn't, hit my routine today, because I've got margin. Margin is really extra space in your calendar or extra time and energy that you'll have to be able to employ at times to be able to meet the extra demands that come up, because we all know life happens. So for me, it's a myth to believe that you'll always be able to balance everything. And it's a losing game if you're always aiming to hit balance. I think you're much more successful when you focus on integrating all the different elements of your life that are important and being able to adjust as necessary. Paul Attia, good friend of mine, highly successful individual from a family, from a work perspective. And he has a great analogy that one of his mentors gave to him. Life is a lot like sailing. So you're really adjusting the sails constantly to catch the wind as necessary. But you also have all these other factors. You've got the current, you've got the weight that you're carrying, you've got, the skill of the people on board. Like, you have to be able to adjust necessarily. So I think the big myth people are believing is that balance is the ideal. Balance isn't the ideal. Integration of all the different elements and being able to adjust yourself as necessary is better.
I love that. I would add on to this, and I think I've shared it in previous conversations on the Dad Central Show, and I also shared this suggestion with fathers, dads, and male caregivers. If you're overwhelmed, nothing wrong with peeling back. So one of the practices that I suggest is, before you get up in the morning, some people do devotional prayer, etc. Think about this. What's the one thing you have to do that day as a dad? And what's the one thing you need to do for yourself? That's it. Keep it simple, because a lot of dads that I assist, they're overwhelmed. And I say, and a practice I add with them is, for 1 week, I basically get them to write down everything they did every hour of each day. And then we come back after a week and see what was necessary, what wasn't necessary, and how they can refine and fine tune their lives to get their time back. Because when you're out of balance, you feel like you don't have time. And I agree with you, the whole concept of being in balance, it's a myth. It's really a myth. It's almost like a catchphrase. It's one of those catchphrases out there. So for me, with the dads, fathers, and male caregivers that I assist, I say, let's get it down to one or two things, because so many people have a to-do list of 10 things every day. And most of the time, when you get back at the end of the day, you haven't finished any of them, because there've been so many interferences. Another thing too, I would suggest for dads out there, and building on, we feel community is very important at the Dad Central Show and Dad Central. Do you have an accountability partner? That can help you in regards to just seeing where you're at, and if you're especially another dad or father, male caregiver, that can help you also, because sometimes getting an outside lens can sometimes help, because you're looking at something one way and saying, oh, I'm overworried. Okay, well, what's necessary and what's not necessary. So peeling back and sometimes lowering it down, because when you can get down to less things you have to do each day, you're going to get them done, better chance of getting done, and you have more positive energy. And you go into the next things that you have to do with positive energy, rather than saying, man, I didn't get this done and I got to start my lists all over again. That sort of feeling. That's what I have to add in regards to this conversation topic. Short, and this could be 10 episodes in itself, but just a short conversation today.
Yeah, great points, Ed. And we want to be able to provide something that you can take away from these conversations. So we're really thinking of you, the listener, and what can we give you so that you can, I'm going to do this and it's going to help with my situation. So I think the listener might be asking it, how do I decide what's on my list when I feel like everything has to be on my list? Right? There's nothing that I can cut out. So, Ed, great idea, but honestly, I got to do all these things. There's no point. And so, I think that's where this next point I want to make offers some value, I hope, and that you really have to learn to identify your priorities. There's a simple statement: if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so maybe the answer is, have you truly evaluated what your real priorities are and where your time and energy has to be allocated? And this is where John Maxwell has been a huge benefit to me. And I want to pass this benefit on. He's got something called the 3 R's. And we've got a great worksheet. We're going to include it in the show notes. You can go download it. And I would encourage you, take this worksheet and do it yourself to help you get clear on your priorities. The 3 R's are this: what is required of me? So you have to do it. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. What gives me my greatest return? And the return is on your invested time and energy. So where are you the most effective? And then where do you get your greatest reward? Where do I feel the most satisfied, the most fulfilled when I commit and give my time there? When you can get clarity on your 3 R's, then you can begin to identify and create a list of priorities that matches and helps you integrate your energy, your mindset, and your requirements much better. So that to me is, once you have the mindset of I can't balance it all and I have to make some important choices and I'm going to learn to integrate all these demands, then I need to know, well, what are those? And that's where the 3 R's worksheet is it's so valuable. And this is not a once and done type of thing. It's a great starting point. What you want to do is actually go back and do this every so often, because guess what? Life changes. You're going to have new demands come up. You're going to have changes come up. So you just got to get clear, though, on those 3 R's. And those can be the foundation moving forward throughout everything that life throws your way. And they're going to change it over time, and that's okay. But when you have this as your starting point, then you can begin to make those hard choices when you feel like your list is overwhelming. It's not actually, because you're clear on those 3 R's.
Yeah, great points. One of the ones I want to just add on to is this is an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done, right? Especially as your dad. As a dad, things are going to change on the minute, let alone over life. But it's an ongoing thing. And I also want to add on, this is an investment in your time in order to get your time back, right? If you feel you're giving out too much, you got to take some time, as Drew said, do some reflection, and sometimes get it out of your head and write it down. Get it out of your head and write down and see what are those priorities in life. Because if they're always bouncing around in your head, it's always going to be bouncing around in your head. Get it out of your head and get it down on paper. So, Drew, anything else you want? Oh, go ahead. It sounds like you want to add something
I
on
wanted
that.
to add to your great point. So important. It reminded me of a T-shirt that we used to have back when I was a student athlete, and the statement on the back was, "If you uh, fail to prepare, prepare to fail." And the investment of time is taking this preparation for yourself and for your life so that you can be successful. Because if you don't, you're preparing to fail.
Well, that's a wrap on this quick episode, and it could be miles long, but we value your time. And as I said, we said, Drew's, we're going to provide a great resource along with this for you to download and make a decision and take action. I just want to finish up this little statement on balance. Balancing fatherhood with other life responsibilities is an ongoing process that requires mindfulness, effort, and adaptability. By setting priorities, Drew mentioned priorities, managing time effectively, and maintaining open communication with your partner, you can create a harmonious environment that benefits both you as a dad, father, male caregiver, your children, and your family. So remember that striving for balance is not about achieving perfection, but finding a sustainable and fulfilling way to integrate all aspects of your life. So it's not about perfection, it's maintaining. So, as always, we want to say thank you so much for taking the time. But as always, email us at dadcentral.ca, podcast at dadcentral.ca. Drew has something he wants to add. Go ahead. No, he's good. All right. All right. It's good. We're having some fun here. Podcast at dadcentral.ca. Feedback, questions. Hey, what things work with you when it comes to balance? We'd like to know. You can also listen to replays of our epic conversations or watch epic conversations on dadcentral.ca/podcast. And then lots of resources, including the one Drew mentioned, dadcentral.ca. So we want to say thank you for providing the most important thing that you have to give, your time. And we'll see you soon. Be well, keep the faith, and we'll chat with you soon.